central banks have a very crude weapon in their fight against inflation. And really, that's the big problem that everyone's wrestling with at the moment.
Inflation is a word that has been used a lot recently. What causes inflation?
The million-dollar question. Unfortunately, there isn't one single answer to that, and that's part of the problem. The obvious answer at the moment is the supply side. So it's energy markets, it's agricultural markets. So sadly, the situation in Russia and Ukraine has resulted obviously in less supply. So that's true of foodstuffs, of grain, it's true of crude oil. Less supply, all else equal, same level of demand means price goes up. Just a supply-demand trade-off. So from the commodity side, it's really all about restricted supply. But it's been compounded because this has obviously been the 2022 story. The 2020 and 2021 story obviously was COVID and lockdown. And what you saw was this huge shift where people were furloughed or looked to let go permanently. People were working from home. And that saw a big shift in supply-demand patterns. So if you think back to the original lockdown, everyone was giving up their gym membership, but maybe subscribing to Peloton, or they were ordering all their food online. And the Just Eats of this world were doing just great because they were doing food delivery services. And now what's happened as the economy has opened up is that people have pivoted away from goods, wanting a new Mac to work from home on, and pivoting back towards services. Everyone wants a summer holiday this year. So the demand for holidays and demand for flights is going through the roof. So when you put those two together, it's a mixture of that kind of supply-demand dynamic. That's what makes it such a problem, because the traditional way that a central bank sits on inflation and keeps inflation capped is to raise interest rates. If you raise interest rates, that's the cost of financing. It makes it more expensive for companies to borrow. It makes it more expensive for you and me to get a mortgage and buy a house. But the trouble is that higher interest rates sit on the demand side of the equation. It affects your behavior, it affects my behavior. It doesn't impact the supply side. It doesn't build a new oil refinery. It doesn't mean that more grain is being shipped. So central banks have a very crude weapon in their fight against inflation. And really, that's the big problem that everyone's wrestling with at the moment.
I think your point around it being such a nuanced topic, there are the fundamental aspects that are a little more binary, and there are responses which central banks can do and government policy which can enact. And then you've got, the legacy of an unprecedented time that was COVID. I was very much a believer that we overplayed the digitization of the world, and I think markets have responded in turn. This idea that we would never be human again, and we wouldn't meet in supermarkets and wouldn't go to restaurants and experience life as life. I thought that was naive and certainly overplayed, and we're probably seeing the legacy of that now.
Yes, agree totally.